Okay, so welcome everybody that is here with us tonight. We are very appreciative of you taking time out of your busy schedule to come hang out with us for 45 minutes to an hour and have some good conversation and hopefully make some new friends and learn some new things. So my name is Patty Sixtus and I am with Not One More Alabama, and I will be your moderator this evening. And this event is a part of a series we've been doing called Ask Me Anything. This series started back, several years ago now. We've been doing it. And we started doing this in person. And it was just kind of a chance to have some good conversation and let people that are trying to learn about addiction and about substance use disorders and how people manage things and just their experiences and just learn from each other. So that's where it started. And then COVID came. And so we had to adjust and turn virtual. So we know that a lot of people are kind of tired of Zoom, but we, again, appreciate you coming and signing on with us tonight and being a part of this. We also appreciate our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules and being with us tonight. And most importantly, just for their honesty and their candor and just kind of telling us how it is and things that we need to know to help us do better. This event is put on and co-hosted by 3 organizations. And we partnered, Not One More Alabama partners with the Drug Education Council in Mobile and the Addiction Prevention Coalition in Birmingham. And so tonight we have representatives from both of those organizations, Carrie and Virginia, with us. And so the first thing I want to do before we get started is to just allow them to take a minute and tell us a little bit about who they are and what their organization does. So Virginia, we'll start with you. Tell us what's happening down in Mobile.
Thank you, Patty. It's an honor to partner with Not One More Alabama and Addiction Prevention Coalition, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to connect across the state, not just in our local community. So I really appreciate that. We provide prevention, intervention, and recovery support services in South Alabama. I'm looking forward to hearing from the panelists tonight, and thank you for your willingness to share your stories. And I also want to thank everybody who's joined us tonight for giving your time. So thank you so much.
And Carrie, you'd like to tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing down there?
Sure. I'm Carrie Wimberly, and I'm the Executive Director of the Addiction Prevention Coalition. And we are really based in Birmingham. Central Alabama is our area that we focus on, and what we are doing is awareness, prevention, and connection activities with the emphasis on prevention. But just so glad to be here. Love partnering with Not One More and Drug Education Council, and so many things going on with them and with other things, but just tonight, just excited to be here. Thankful for this conversation. It's so important, and we're glad to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate it and appreciate you guys being here. And Not One More Alabama, for those that don't know, is a nonprofit organization up here in Huntsville. We've been around 4 or 5 years now, and we're an all-volunteer organization that works to reduce stigma, bring about awareness to substance use disorders, and just support those people who have been impacted in one of many different ways that could look like. So that is our mission up here, and we do that in lots of different ways, including having events like this. So with that, Virginia and Carrie, I think, are gonna go hang out in the background for just a little bit so that these folks can be the center of attention. And so for those of you that are on here tonight that are participating and listening, this is an interactive event. This is a chance for you to ask questions. So use the Q&A or the chat, either one. We can see your questions come in either way. And let us know if there's something you want to know. So if one of the panelists says something that just, brings around a thought or a question, don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Feel free to just jump in there. We've had some questions that we've got ahead of time, and so we're going to start with those. But as you want to know something, this is your chance to ask the experts, because this group is definitely the experts in this topic. And so it's a real opportunity to learn some inside information. All right, are you guys ready? Y'all ready? All right, so this is our panelists tonight, and I'm going to let them go around and introduce themselves. We'll start up, again, I'm going to start in the top corner because it's my top corner, but it may not be yours, but with Lisa and Paul, and let them just tell a little bit about who they are.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul. I'm an alcoholic in recovery nearly 4 years, actually 1,412 days. So I'm excited to talk to everybody tonight. If you got any questions, just feel free to let us have it.
I'm Lisa. Paul and I have been married going on 18 years. I am also a board member of Not One More. And I can't tell you that I love this group any more than I do, because it's just what they stand for is amazing. So anything that we can do to help people come out of the fire, we're here, we're ready. Ask away.
Nice, thank you guys. Billy and Holly, will you introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Billy Walther. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic addict. My sobriety date is April 7th, 2016. Fixed to come up on 5 years. Excited about that. One day at a time. And then my wife's sitting next to me. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Holly. Me and Billy have been married going on 6 years. We just, we've been together a short time, but it was a long journey, if that makes sense.
So glad to have you guys here. Ashley and Charlie.
Hi there, I'm Ashley Collier. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and addict as well. And my sobriety date is July 3rd, 2014. This is my husband, Charlie. And
I'm Charlie Collier, and my sobriety date is 16 July 2014. We're 13 days apart. We did meet in recovery, and then later got married afterwards. So that's all we got.
Grateful to be here. Thank you for having us.
Well, thank you guys for being here. And Haley and Harold, y'all ready to tell us a little bit about you?
Yes. Hey, everybody. My name's Haley Beeson. I'm a member of long-term recovery since 2012. This is my husband, Harold. He's been sober since 2009, and we've been together about 7 years, and we met in the rooms.
Thank you guys for being here. Harold, you want to say anything?
Hey, she covers me. You see how it's going to be. No, I'm Harold, and I'm alcoholic, and I'm tickled to be here. You know, my life is an open book, so ask us anything you need to know. That's what we're here for.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Last but not least, down in the bottom corner on my screen is Kim and Bill.
Hey everybody. My name is Kim Holder, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is August 20th, 2012. I met my husband, Bill, in the rooms, and I'll let him take it from there.
Hi, I'm Bill Holder. My sobriety date is July of 2012. Somewhere around the middle of the month, I had made many attempts, and so I wasn't expecting this one to take this time, and I didn't keep up with the exact day, so it's right in the middle there. I've settled on the 15th to make it easy. Grateful to be here.
Grateful to have all of you guys here tonight. I think it's just a real honor for us to have you guys here. We do a lot of things with parents. Most of our things have been geared towards parents and that are living with young people in their life and children or adult children. This is the first time we've done anything with spouses. And so really excited to be able to have this conversation and to hopefully reach some people out there that might be looking for what we have to say tonight. So I'm going to start, like I said, with some questions that we already had sent in, and those of you guys out there in the audience, just jump right in with the Q&A in the chat and let us know what you want to know. But the first question we have tonight, and you guys kind of hear it and then decide who wants to grab it, is somebody that says, I am in early recovery and my spouse does not understand why I need to spend so much time going to meetings and working on my recovery. What can I do to try to get their support? Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
I'll start. Let's see. Well, I think for me, for being a non-user, we've played second fiddle to everything else, or actually we didn't even come in second. I was last on the list, if I even made the list, to his addictions. And when he started into recovery, I had to start my own. So I would encourage your spouse to also get into Al-Anon or Families Anonymous or individual counseling. That has helped me so much, but also working in recovery and working with other people helped me to see what it means that they work their recovery and they stay in recovery, because if he's not in recovery, I'm never going to matter, and neither is our son. So I would, if he wants to go to 15 meetings a day, I'm going to cheer him on to go to those 15 meetings a day. But that comes from me also having to do some work on myself, because we've had to share them with an addiction for so long that we want them now. We want them to participate in our lives as well. And we have to understand that they can't participate in your life if you're still using. So as the non-user spouse, it's important to encourage your spouse to participate in their recovery and to stay in it, because if they're not in it, nothing else is going to matter.
Hey, Patty.
Yeah.
It's Billy here, grateful recovering alcoholic. I think it'd be good for him to, there's plenty of groups out there that offer an AA meeting and Al-Anon meeting during the same hour, and that spouse could go to the Al-Anon meeting while husband or wife is in the AA meeting, to learn, more about the disease, because the more they learn, the more they're going to start to realize why their loved one needs to be at these meetings.
So why do you guys think it's important? I mean, what are they going to get out of going to some type of support? And what could that support look like? I know you mentioned Al-Anon, so a lot of Al-Anon I know is available. What other ways can they get support, and what are they going to get out of that? What are they going to get?
Well, you learn that as the spouse, that you got things broken inside of you, not just from dealing with your alcoholic or your loved one that's suffering, but things that's went on in your life as well. You've got so much bottled up, and you've always put yourself last, and you've dealt with the alcohol and the drugs, and you've always put it on the back burner. So you've got a lot built up, and you need fixing as well. And that's the only way things are going to get better, is if both of you are healing. You both need healing.
That's excellent. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate that. We had somebody else that kind of in that same area that said, my wife is so angry and frustrated with me that I just don't see how she's going to get over that. How can I support her? Other than going to meetings, can you guys think of any other ways that you can support? Those years when someone's in active addiction can bring a lot of really negative emotions, and it can be really tough. Is there any thoughts you have on what to do with all that anger, Kim?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the first things that was suggested to me from other people in recovery was that if I could be absolutely transparent and intentional when I was dealing with family members, the more of an open book I could be to them, the more supportive they would become. It takes a long time to build that trust back. There were periods in my drinking career where I would leave to go get a loaf of bread and be gone for 3 days. And that's not an exaggeration. It's I can laugh at it now, but that's a true story. When I got sober, if somebody needed to go get a loaf of bread, nobody ever looked at me. You know, they didn't want me leaving. But what I started doing, and one of the ways that I gained the trust back with my extended family was, because that's where I wound up living. I went to get a loaf of bread and I came home, and I came home with a loaf of bread and with a receipt and with the change from the $5 bill. And the tiniest little things like that most people take for granted. Somebody who's dealt with an alcoholic or an addict, somebody that's in active addiction, they didn't expect me to come home with change for a $5 bill. And so when I started doing that, I started building that trust back. So looking at those little things and realizing all those small ways that I had affected the people around me, and trying to make amends for those things by changing the way I act. And if I can change the way I act often enough for long enough, then I build that trust back. I have to be very intentional.
That's an incredible answer, Kim. I mean, as a family member of somebody who is in recovery, I mean, that hard to explain just how important those little steps are, and those little coming back with the change on time in the way that you're expecting is a tremendous.
In the same car I left in.
In the same car you left in. I mean, you know, and it's easy to laugh at now, but it's huge. It's a huge deal. So yes, in addition to going to Al-Anon and doing those things to support them personally, yeah, your actions, your behaviors are another way that you can help to start dissipating that anger and that frustration, because as trust starts to build, then anger can dissipate.
There is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. You know, there's a lot of pain that goes hand in hand with addiction. So with that said, I would encourage any non-user that's in a relationship to make sure you get involved and start working on yourself. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen within you. And we see that in anger, frustration, but we also have to remember that what has happened here is over years. Do you know how many times I come home and said I'll never do it again, and lie and go and do it again? You know, and then all of a sudden you think I'm supposed to be serious this time. So, you know, there's a big trust factor with an alcoholic, because actually I don't trust myself either early on. You know, I don't know either if I'm really going to stay sober. You know, I've tried before and it seemed like I always screw up. And when I do, the first thing that comes to my mind is I've let everybody I love down again. You know, I've destroyed again. So with that being said, a lot of what Harold does is action, action, action. Come and go like I say I'm going to. When I go to a meeting, go to a meeting and come. Make sure if a loved one would want to go with me, that's fine. Go with me. There's open meetings. Participate in the recovery. There's a lot of fun in recovery too. There really is. We just have to get through some of these hurdles of this pain that hurts so bad that I'm sorry is just not going to heal it. We have to prove and have to show that we mean business. You know, if you're a part of the big book Alcoholics Anonymous, it makes it real clear that we are to prove that we are to mean business. So when I start doing that and I start doing what I say I'm going to do and walk the walk, the people around me start noticing, and they quit questioning me as much. You know, they start understanding that I really am trying. And when you see that a loved one is trying, your family does all they can to help. That's all they wanted us to ever do, was to try. Just try, Harold. You know, and I always give up way too early. So action, action, action. You know, for the alcoholic, I must stay and do as I heard earlier, you know, there's nothing wrong with bringing home a receipt. You know, and I have nothing wrong with, if you got an issue with me and I'm acting shady, do you want me to do a drug test? I will. It's okay today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Harold. That was powerful, and kind of goes right into the next question, because we just received a question in our chat box, and it's about trust. And it says, trust is now an issue for me with my addict husband. I've been lied to multiple times in our marriage. How do I work on trust and still be diligent and calm in my manner? So struggling with trust, but how to work through that calmly, you know. I mean, that's a tough thing sometimes to do. So does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think
Go
when you
ahead, Kim.
start focusing on yourself,
Oh,
Say that again, Holly.
trust is a hard thing to recover, and what just a little lie can scar you forever. And but you have to start focusing on yourself, the healing and forgiveness, and give that other individual the opportunity to make it right, as he was saying. Little things, and like him, little things, just the small things, proof, and it takes time. You just have to be patient, to allow those wounds to heal, and let your loved one prove that they can be trusted.
Lisa and Paul, did y'all have something? I thought y'all were gonna say.
In our journey and in my alcoholic journey, and I've learned a lot about acceptance, and I have to pray about it every day because it's not easy. Sometimes it's not all that enjoyable, but accepting your role in the recovery process of your spouse is huge. But simply because you just can't sit back and say, okay, he's in recovery, or she's in recovery, and I'm just going to sit back and watch it happen, see how it goes. Um, you know, it's as much of a recovery process for the spouse as it is for the addict or the alcoholic, because you're not the same person that you were when you guys met, or when the alcoholism or addiction started to go, downhill rapidly. He created a person that has just got deceit and mistrust and everything just burned into their brain. So you have to do some work on your own to get back to that person that you were, just the same as we do. So accepting your role in their recovery is huge, and please pray about acceptance every day.
It's easy. I mean, I was completely sober for his 14 years of active addiction, so I had a front row seat, and I remember it all better than he does. So it's easy for me to open those wounds up and allow myself to go to those dark places. But it's so hard to dig myself back out of them. So I just really try not to go there. But his behaviors can trigger those for me, just because it will remind me of something. And those are moments that I just really have to take a step back and take a pause and just either leave the room, and to be able to come back and look at him and say, no, this really hurt my feelings. It reminded me of this, or this upset me because it made me think of when you used to do this. And we can sit down and we can talk that out without it escalating to an argument, and be able to talk about our feelings. And sometimes he has no idea what to say back to me. And the best things he has ever said back to me is, I don't know what to say back to you. So the only thing I can do to you is do for you is to give you my full attention and listen to you with everything. So just to be able to say those things and it not escalate to a screaming fight is really, it's really healing. Things we keep covered up do not heal. So if you're just sitting there and letting it eat at you, it's going to continue to eat at you. You're not going to be able to do well with yourself and your own recovery, more or less helping your husband or your wife in their recovery as well. And you don't want to have that setback either. So it's so important for both of you to seek your own counseling or groups, or your own people that you can just open up to and say the hard things to, and not feel like you're going to get some kickback from it, because we all need to be able to say what we need to say without feeling judged, or like we're going to hurt their feelings or run them back into active addiction. So it's so important for you to have your group of people too to talk to. It makes a huge difference.
I appreciate that, Lisa and Holly. Both y'all have some great insight on that from your perspective. And we just got another question or statement in that I think really speaks to the fact that anger is a really big theme in these relationships. So this one, and again, it's not as much a question as it is a statement, but I think that some of y'all might be able to just speak to this person and give them some feedback. It says, after 4 months of my fiance relapsing back and forth, spending every dime we had to get high, and me staying compassionate and supportive, now this time I think that my fiance is serious about being sober, but I'm angry because we've been going through this for so long and I don't know how to get past the anger this time. So again, that anger, is obviously a major issue. Any other thoughts on anger? And I hear some hope in this one, that there's hope for change, but Ashley?
I was just going to say that for us as alcoholics and addicts, and resentment and anger are number one offender. I know, or I don't know coming from the other side of things, but I do know in general that forgiveness is a choice. As hard as, and sometimes it's not easy. There's a lot of things that are not easy, but choosing to forgive and to try to their best to move forward. Still, I have to do that in everyday life, living life on life's terms. I'm still human and I still get angry. And so, I can make a choice to forgive and to trust, my higher power, that things are going to work out exactly the way they're supposed to work out, as long as I'm continuing to do the right things. I can't be held accountable for anybody else's actions. That, and Paul mentioned acceptance. I believe that's a big deal. I don't have to like something to accept it, but if I accept something, it's a lot easier to move forward with that forgiveness process in terms of anger and trust and things like that. So anyhow,
that's excellent. Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, and I think Paul bringing up acceptance and Ashley reiterating that is really important because there's so much we can't control. I think that speaks to the issue that she's got going on right now. So let's kind of change direction a little bit here and talk about, we've had some questions that were submitted in kind of the same theme, but in relationship to when, I'll just read this question. My spouse went to treatment and now attends a support program. He basically left all his old friends, our old friends, and has a whole new group of sober friends that he is very close to. I am still friends with our old friends and I want to hang out with them and sometimes even party with them. How do I handle this? Just because he got sober, does that mean that I have to too to stay in the relationship? So do y'all have any thoughts on that? That's a big transition in somebody's life if one person gets sober and really changes their whole world.
I'll speak on it actually. A little bit with I'm Charlie. I was too far gone to have a spouse when I got sober. So, but with my family, my aunt and my mom, they said a lot, we just want the old Charlie back. We just want the old Charlie back. And they were never going to get that. And that was one thing they didn't understand, is that I'm not going to be the person I was before I started drinking. I'm not going to be the person I was when I was drinking either. I'm going to be a new person, and it's a third person. And I think a lot of close family members and spouses, there's that jealousy. I just want things to be the way they were, and it's never going to be the way it was. It wasn't even that great if they come to think about it, because there's a lot of things they don't know that were going on. But trying to, like, goes back to what everybody else has said. I mean, getting involved, getting educated, try to get your own support system, and hanging out with prior friends. I mean, I didn't have to get rid of any of my old drinking buddies. They got rid of themselves, that they stopped calling because I'm not going. I'm not going out. I'm not going here. I'm not going there. I'm not going to do that anymore. And I don't know, as far as hanging out with them, you know, it sounds kind of like maybe that person maybe needs to just, you know, get involved on their own recovery, on their own healing, as has been said earlier. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
I was an occasional wine drinker, but actually, I think when he decided to go into rehab and get into recovery, I came home and I cleaned out everything immediately from my house because I lived 14 years of that hell. I don't ever want to go back down that road ever again. So I had to do a lot of work on myself, but our marriage is better without alcohol. I don't care for it to be in my home. I would never do anything to, even though he's in a really good spot right now, that might not be the case in 10 minutes. And I'm not willing to risk that by keeping alcohol in my house. Or, I can't change everybody else around us. I mean, I have family members that drink, but I know that when we're in a situation and he's uncomfortable, I'm out. Peace. I love y'all, but I'm not jeopardizing his sobriety and our marriage over a beer anymore.
Good stuff.
Yeah, really powerful, Lisa. I mean, I think, and those are messages that I think people have to hear. I mean, I remember being in the family program, and that was a really common question was, do I have to get rid of all my alcohol because my child is in treatment? Those are big changes, big.
Patty, I mean, it's one of those things where you want your loved one, you need your loved one's support. I would have never got through this without Holly. She stood by me all the way. I mean, she met me at a bar pretty much. She married an alcoholic. She didn't realize what she was doing at the time. And all the lies and hurt that I caused her over the years, from when I finally got sober. I remember being at Bradford and her, when I got out of Bradford, I remember hearing her tell people all the time that I got to call her one day from my counselor's office to invite her in for a family day. And she told people that he sounded so different. He didn't sound like the same person. I was already changing within those 5 to 6 days that I was there. But I like, your friends, to this day right now, I have friends that drank, but they don't ever invite us over for anything, and I see them out doing things. And I still like to go around today, being I'm coming up on 5 years, I still, there's some of those guys that I try to witness to every once in a while, but you can't save everybody. So.
Perfect. Well, and then so somebody had sent us a question just saying, if one spouse is in recovery, can the other spouse drink socially or responsibly? Do y'all have any thoughts on that?
Well,
Hey.
go ahead,
Haley.
I wanted to touch on one of the important aspects of the disease that not many people that don't suffer with it really understand is that once we've stopped drinking, we are still battling the mental obsession to drink or get high any chance we can. And we don't want to admit it and we don't want to talk about it, but it's going on. And that just goes away after being sober for a while and working through the steps. But I would say the first year, it is always right there. I used to be around my mother and I would get so jealous and it would put me in such a bad mood because I knew I couldn't do it, but I was so mad that she could. And it just stays with us for a little while in the beginning. I would say at least for everybody, probably the first 6, 7, 8, 9 months, you're still thinking about it regularly on a daily basis. And that just goes away with time and working the steps and getting really involved in recovery. But it's very important for, I'd say the first year or two, not to even have it in the house. I don't know if you ever want to have it in the house because if you come home and have a bad day or I just couldn't, everybody's different. And I sponsor people who have a spouse who drinks and they're fine. But I personally would have a hard time if it was always in my fridge. Just like he was saying earlier, you know, we all have friends, or we all go to events once we've been in recovery a while, where you go to a concert and there's drinking and things of that nature, but you always have somebody with you that's sober. That's a big deal, to always have somebody with you that's sober and always be accountable. And anytime you want to leave, it's okay to leave. And it's okay to voice that you're uncomfortable and you don't need to be here right now.
My takeaway from what you guys are saying is that, you know, it's not that that can't be okay, but you really need to have a conversation with your loved one and really understand each other and make a really conscious decision about it. Make a thoroughly informed, conscious decision. And probably, just based on what y'all are saying, leaning more in the direction of not going in that direction, you know, trying to figure out a way to live a life without it instead of including it. Is that fair to say that that would be what y'all are kind of?
It is, Patty. I'll jump in. I think, you know, nobody else is responsible for my sobriety but me. So, you know, if it's something that I'm uncomfortable with, I have to speak up. You know, I can't, nobody can read my mind. So again, I think you kind of touched on this. Communication, I believe, is key, and being honest, open, honest communication, you know, about how you're feeling at the time. And somebody else mentioned too, you know, I could be fine now, but maybe 2 hours from now, something happens, you know, or I learn about some, you know, life altering event or something that's going on. And who knows, if it's right there at my fingertips, it's a lot easier to get to. Not to say that that's going to be my first thought, you know. I believe Haley was right. After a period of time, you know, that obsession is lifted for most people in recovery. And so it's not the first thing that I think of when things like that happen today. Because I'm given tools and I'm taking action and I'm working a program, but I'm the only one that can do that for me and make those decisions. So I'm grateful that like I have family members, somebody mentioned, that still drink, and they just choose not to do it around me anymore. You know, if they do, it might be, you know, one drink socially out to dinner, and we might go to dinner 3 times a year, you know, so it's not a regular occurrence anymore. But also I'm the only one who can make the decision to be around it also. And like Haley said, it's okay if I don't feel comfortable to say I'm not comfortable here. You know, I have to set those boundaries for myself, and I'm the only one that can speak up and do that. So, you know, nobody else can do it for me. So I think just open, honest communication. And if you're really uncomfortable with it, you know, to have that conversation. My sobriety comes first in my life so that everything else doesn't have to come last. And I try to keep that, you know, keep that in mind and first. So
I think it's also, it's why it's so important to get the spouse involved in recovery, so they can understand that we don't take a drink and giggle and then just, you know, go to bed and wake up the next day. You know, let them understand what the alcoholic, and get into some kind of program that teaches you about this disease and how deadly it is, that it is so powerful that it takes our lives. It's its job. It takes our lives. Why would you want to jeopardize having your family or your loved one and a bottle of whiskey in the same room? You know, with that said, once you get educated in the disease of alcoholism, chances are, through discussion, chances are it won't be in the house anymore for a long period of time, or an extended period of time where the alcoholic is comfortable with it being there, if that's the choice. So, you know, it's education, education, education. And we all have to be educated in this disease if we're ever to get along and stay together the way marriage is designed to be.
Nice, Harold. Thank you, guys. Those are excellent answers. And I do want to encourage the people that are out there participating and listening to go ahead and send us in any questions that you have. We did just get one, so I'm going to read this one. It's not specific to spouses, but it's all still very relevant. And this person says, I have family members that stress me out and all they do is complain and critique. How do I respectfully distance myself from them and not hurt their feelings? Of course, that could be a spouse. In this case, I think it's a different relationship, but and they also said, go Tigers with the Geaux. So I have a feeling they're from the South. So anyway, if anybody wants to just talk about, you know, just those family member relationships, and when people are stressing you out and they're, you know, that there's going to be some family members that aren't going to get educated. They're not going to go out and do the learning. They're not going to invest in that for whatever reason. They just don't get it for some reason. And they're probably going to continually stress you out and complain and critique. How do you handle that? How do you respectfully distance yourself without hurting those feelings? Because some of those relationships are still important relationships and you're not ready to walk away from them.
I can speak on that, and I'll tell you why I can speak on that right now. We just relocated, and we're temporarily living with my parents again for a few months until we buy a house. And so I can definitely relate to the mom thing, especially right now. And I know that she comes from a place of love and concern. Okay. So, and that's her way of communicating things, and her way of communicating fears, and her way of just wanting me to be, in her eyes, and what her opinion is of a better person. And so I try to keep those things in mind, but it is definitely okay to set boundaries, you know, there, and say, okay, it's not, this makes me feel a certain way, and it's not okay. You know, there's ways to do it respectfully. It had 7 years ago, before I was sober, had some of these same things come up and some of the same things been said, it would have been a whole different scenario. There would have been a screaming match and disrespect and lots of hurt feelings in the house. But I've also learned to pause, sometimes pause and pray quickly and ask for guidance. And I don't have to be right today. I don't always have to be right. I like to be right. Don't get me wrong. I still have that ego thing, you know, that I'm still human. But today I don't have to be right. You know, I need to be respectful and try not to hurt other people. So sometimes it's not what I say, it's how I say it too. But the mom thing, I definitely get that. Being patient with them, you know, they're just as sick as we are. We've affected their lives in a great way, you know, and it doesn't just repair. It's not repaired overnight. It took us a long, you know, well, I don't know how long it took each person, but it wasn't overnight that I tore my whole life apart. It happened over a period of time. And so it takes a period of time to rebuild those relationships and to repair them and the trust. It happens, you know, I think, and I'm going to refer back because this is the tools that I use, but in the big book, in the family afterward, it says in time they will see, and in time they will see, but your behavior, you know, my behavior needs to be changed for a period of time for them to believe it. You know, I'll believe it when I see it, kind of thing. So one of our, and this comes back to me a lot, one of our counselors in treatment always said, the buck stops here. You know, I'm not here to argue and be that old person again today and to be right. You know, you're entitled to how you feel, and I'm entitled to my feelings, you know. So it's been a long journey, you know, but I'm grateful. Everything's happened for a reason, but I've learned a lot with boundaries and family members and relationships. So I'm sure there's still more to learn too. Every day.
Thank you, Ashley. That's an excellent answer to that question. And
I wanted to jump in on something too. As far as being stressed out, I know my family, she's kind of learned, they operate like very quickly. You know, hey, do you want to come over at 6 for a party or a dinner? And it's 2 p.m. I mean, they don't plan out a lot. And that, to me, I didn't want to just I didn't want to do it that way anymore. I didn't like to, live my life on a whim anymore. And so we didn't go. I mean, that started becoming my answer was no. We already have plans. Of course, we have a 3-year-old as well, and he was, we had a young child during this time too, and so we weren't just going to drop everything and go do what they wanted to do anymore. And this, my close family, my mother, my sister, not my aunt was probably the only one that still planned stuff out and everything was kind of organized. But that's, and I talking with my sponsor, I know, talking with her, I mean, that's okay. You don't have to go to all of your family events, that and stuff like that. If you're, if it's something that you don't agree with, it's going to cause a stressful situation. I mean, removing yourself sometimes is the best answer, especially if going into it that it's going to cause, a bunch of negativity. Or if someone has something to say, just looking back at them and saying, thank you, I'll take that into consideration. That was something that it was kind of told to me, you don't have to tell them the negativity. You can just say, thank you and go on.
That's excellent.
Let it be at that.
Very good. Those are just tremendous feedback. And I hope that is giving them some food for thought as they move forward and try to work through some of the issues going on in their life. I'm going to change gears just a little bit here because we're down to about our last 10 minutes here. And this question comes in and really probably is going to sound more like somebody that's in a 12-step type fellowship, but I think it can apply to anything, whether you're going to Smart Recovery or Celebrate Recovery or any other mutual aid type group. This question says, is my spouse's relationship with their sponsor or other mentor in their recovery program a relationship that I can be a part of? My spouse seems to keep that relationship private, but I feel like I should know this individual since they're such an important part of their life. Do y'all have any thoughts on that relationship of, whether it's a sponsor or a mentor or whatever that person is that's, helping to facilitate and guide them through their path of recovery? Any thoughts on sharing that relationship and access of the other spouse to that person, Ashley?
From the side, from being, I am an alcoholic. And so I can tell you that part of what I've learned in my program is to not arouse jealousy or suspicion or those types of things in my partner. So if it is really important, if he, I can just say on my end that if it was very important or if he was concerned or had questions about somebody that I was with, he is more than happy to meet them. I'm more than happy to introduce them and say, hey, this is who it is because I have nothing to hide today, and that's just me. That's personally, everybody's story is different. But I try to live, by those rules. So.
Thank you, Ashley.
And I think too.
Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
I think too, I mean, as far as the spouse meeting the sponsor, I mean, somebody that's really involved, the alcoholic being really involved in their program, and then the spouse getting involved too. I mean, they're going to meet. I mean, it's just they're going to be at an event or something like that, a cookout, or we do all kinds of things, get together. So I mean, they should meet. I mean, eventually anyway, if it's something of any, that's going to be something that's going to keep going. So.
And Billy, you said something when we were kind of talking in a meeting before this. You and Holly talked a little bit about the spouse even sometimes coming to meetings with them. Well, can you kind of address what you were talking about? You and Holly had kind of mentioned open meetings and what that could look like.
Well, when I got out, I'm like Harold. I didn't have anything to hide. So, I mean, if there was an open meeting and Holly wanted to go, she could go, and she would just sit in and listen to what everybody had to say, and it got to the point where I'd show up at a meeting and people would be like, where's Holly at? But she learned a lot, because going to Al-Anon, she went to Al-Anon, she got a sponsor, so I didn't know everything that she was telling her sponsor. It's none of my business, but I had my sponsor, but she knew who he was, and she still knows who he is, of course. But there's things I tell him that I don't tell her. But there's very few things. Like I said, I don't have anything to hide, so uh, I'll let her speak on it a bit.
But I just feel introducing them to your sponsor, that I see no problem in that. But especially early in recovery, they need that time with being able to talk to someone they can trust and not involve everybody. We're a family, and they need, there might be something that they don't want to upset you and cause a big fight, but they got to get it off their chest, and that's important for their recovery to get that off their chest. And so I think what they talk to their sponsor about shouldn't be a big deal, because it is a male on male and female. If it was opposite, where you could have a man have a female, then I could see jealousy there. But this is a man with a man, and they need that time. They need that confidence in being able to talk to somebody, because you tell your deepest secrets. I mean, to that person, to try to get it off of you, things that you've been hurting for years. Because an alcoholic and addict usually always has hurt in their heart, and they need to release it. And that's the only way they're going to stay sober. So they need that privacy, I think.
So it sounds to me like what y'all are saying is that the secrecy part, because during your loved one's active use, secrecy is such a problem area. So addressing it in the standpoint that they know who this person is and can not worry about something with that, and feel like there's some openness. But in terms of their conversations and their relationship, that's their relationship. Am I summarizing that kind of correctly, or does anybody have a different opinion to that?
That's good. My sponsor comes to my family funerals, but she's not going to sit around with my mom and talk about my alcoholism or my recovery. That's not her role. She and I have a relationship based on my recovery, but when she's around family, that's not what it's about. It's about her being a human in the human race, and they can talk about human things, but they can't talk about my things.
Nice. I like that, Kim. And Paul, did you have something to add to that?
Conversation rules the nation in my book. If it's open conversation and you're understanding one another, and that's key too, is to understand what the person is actually saying. And I think at times when we get into a discussion, it turns into talking at one another instead of talking to one another. And I'll be the first to say, when she goes to talking at me, I'm not listening much. It gets different. So as long as there is some kind of, open communication, and understanding, it helps. It goes a long way. And to have that person, sponsor, in your life that, you can talk to and start a sentence and they finish it, it's a little bit different, than sitting down and talking to your spouse about what you've been through, because they don't always understand. But Lisa let me have my time with my meetings, and she knew that was a sacred place for me to go and just have that time. And it was good to have that time, because it's just an awkward place, to begin with, and to ask her to come was kind of awkward. But
I appreciate that, you guys. I think you've covered it well, and really some good food for thought for people. Okay, this is probably going to be our last question. We've got about 5 minutes left, but this one just came in through our chat, and I think a really important question that just shows the depth of this disease and how it impacts the spouses. And this person, who I believe's been hearing us all night, says, I do feel that I'm educated. I definitely support him. And at one point, never had a drink for many years, but I could if I wanted to. However, I went to so many meetings with him that there were people in the program that even thought I was in the actual program. I did Al-Anon, and I tried everything along the way to be the best spouse and support his recovery. No matter what I did, he still ended up relapse after relapse with drugs. Did he tell me it's okay to be myself and go out with friends if I wanted to as support, or because he was using again? So this is a person that looks like they've done everything that we've possibly talked about tonight and applied it already, and is asking, what do they do now? Why? Y'all got any thoughts on?
I want to look at that chat. What I heard was that I did everything. Hang on. No matter what I did, he still ended up relapsing. So no matter what you did, he would have relapsed anyway. You didn't cause his relapse. You can't stop him from relapsing. Him, you're doing those right things that were listed in that chat are great and wonderful if you're doing them for yourself. But if you're doing those things with the expectation that it's going to cause your significant other to stop drinking and drugging, that can't be the end game. The end game has to be that you do the next right thing that is going to improve your quality of life, regardless of what the other person's doing. You know, I go to Al-Anon as well because I have family members who I can't say they're alcoholic. I can't say they're addicted, but what I can say is that their actions affect me when it comes to alcohol and drugs. And so for that reason, I also attend Al-Anon. I don't attend Al-Anon with the expectation that it's going to cause them to stop drinking and drugging. I don't go for that. That's not my expectation when I go to Al-Anon. I go to Al-Anon so that I learn how not to be bothered by the fact that they drink and use drugs. So that doing all those things that sound like really good supportive things for your significant other, the only thing him relapsing over and over again proves is that it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. If you're working on yourself for you and you're getting better in the process, then you have to kind of cut yourself some slack. He's not continuing to use because you're doing something wrong. He's continuing to use because he's addicted. And no matter what you do on your side of the ball, it's not going to change the fact that he's addicted. But it's going to give you some coping skills and some tools to use and some ears that can hear you and some stories that sound similar to yours to make you feel better, you know?
And when he's sending her out and saying, go out and be yourself and go out with your friends, is he doing that to support her or just because he was using again?
That could be both, Patty. You know, I mean, you don't know, you don't know because you're not there. But you know, you like to think that he's telling her so she can go spend some time with her friends. You know,
We have no way of knowing his motives, but I think everybody that is recovering on the panel, they already know that when we leave the house in the morning, that we only have a daily reprieve against the next drink. That we have to stay in good spiritual condition. So it can happen to any of us in spite of what we do.
Y'all, with that, we're at 7 o'clock and we try to keep these to right at an hour. And you guys have been amazing tonight. In our Q&A, we had somebody say, I just want to thank all the couples for their time and information. Y'all did a great job. Thanks. And I know that is probably a sentiment that's echoed by everybody out there. It takes a lot of courage to get up here and to have these kinds of conversations and to be open, but that level of openness is what can change lives and help people in a real meaningful way. And so we are so grateful to you guys for being here tonight, taking time, and just your willingness to be a part of this. Virginia, Carrie, is there anything that you guys want to add?
I just
I
want to
just
add
want, oh,
my
go ahead.
thank you. Yeah, for being present, for being honest and genuine, and especially for sharing hope. I think that's really going to help a lot of people out there tonight. So thank you so much. I'm sorry, Carrie.
Yes. And I just wanted to say thanks for, the transparency. Because, we do a lot of different work, but, this is real. This is what life looks like. And so it's important to share that with people. And it is incredibly hopeful to look at all of you guys as you share. I mean, like I'm tearing up as I hear the stories because it matters. This is humanity. So thank you for being willing to do that.
We had one question we didn't get to tonight that was basically saying, what does it look like when a couple is living well in recovery? What are the things that make them successful? And I think what we've just watched tonight pretty much answered that. It's two people on the same sheet, doing the same thing, working towards the same goal. And you guys have exemplified that beautifully tonight. And on behalf of NOMA, the Drug Education Council, Addiction Prevention Coalition, we appreciate you guys, and we appreciate you guys attending and listening and participating. And we hope that this was meaningful for you and helpful for you. Always feel free to email us. You can email us at mail@notonemorealabama.org. Carrie and Virginia, you want to give your email address?
Yes, I'm vguy@drugeducation.org.
I'm Carrie at apcbham.org.
If you have any further questions after tonight, we know how to reach these folks, and we can get you in contact or do what we can to help get you more information if you need it. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. And with that, we'll say good night. So thank you, everybody.